Okay, welcome everyone. So they say sales is an art and engineering is a science. But what happens when you have to master both? Welcome to Architects of the Technical Win, the show dedicated to unsung heroes of deal, solution architect, pre-sales engineers who bridge the gap between complex technology and real-world business value. In each episode, we bring to you some of the best pre-sales leaders who have epitomized the role pre-sales and talk about some of the strategies that secure the technical win and the key skills that turn skeptics into champions. Today, we are joined by Abhijit Portnes. Abhijit has a stellar experience of being an SE, more than 28 years, handled multiple functions, multiple teams, geographies, roles, etc. We'll be breaking down metrics that actually matters and how to build a team that delivers outcomes. We are your hosts, Anshuman Rai and Sriraman Radhakrishnan, and you are with us on Architects of the Technical Win, your home for pre-sales excellence. Welcome, Abhijit. Well, everybody knows you, but we would like you to give your introduction so that we know Abhijit, not the Abhijit we have been working with for a long time, but the real Abhijit.
Thank you, Anshuman, for inviting me for this podcast dedicated for technical architects or priests, as we call it. A great initiative. Happy to be part of it. As you mentioned, I've spent many years in pre-sales as AC as well as in leadership roles. Until recently, I was heading pre-sales team for VMC software across Asia Pacific for about 3 years. Before that, I was part of Dell Technologies, heading their channel pre-sales team across Asia Pacific and Japan. That is the time period when I was in Singapore. Before that, I was heading pre-sales team for EMC India, and now I've recently moved to Australia and settled here. So it's a quite a journey moving from India to Singapore to Australia, and luckily for me, a few years ago, I was watching one of the company's strategy and vision statements, and it was start of a financial year. And I'm like, I think it's a good time to put my own life strategy and vision statement together. So I really sat through, put up, a small PPT together. What's my overall life vision? What's my strategy? And one of the bucket in that was probably the career vision where I want to be. But interestingly enough, I managed to put together as a family where we want to be, as an individual what I want to develop. And these form my different buckets under the execution plan, and obviously the metrics is to measure whether I'm doing good or not. So that would tell you that I'm quite disciplined and quite, in that sense, determined person. I like clarity in life, not just the career or not just the job. Obviously, not everything from my VSEM vision strategy execution matrices came true. But yeah, I tried putting it together a few years ago and continue to reflect back saying, have I done this right? Or am I on track? And, it has come handy to me. So yeah, that's me, Anshuman. That helps.
Yeah, that's interesting. And maybe Abhijit, today's agenda is a little different, very focused on pre-sales. I think whatever you have done calls for a separate episode to be made. So maybe
Sure.
round two we will get you for that. But yeah, stellar journey and good luck for the next round. So, Abhijit, let's get started. And this is a question I think all pre-sales people have in their mind: what time to start? So, typically, when you join a college or the university, you always join with very specific roles or functions in mind, right? Nobody joins a college or a university or a course to become a pre-sales engineer, correct?
Yeah.
So if you look back in your career when you were studying and then you started working, was there a moment when you realized that okay, enough of being on this side of being an engineer, and I think I have it in me, and I really want to now jump into helping customers and becoming a solution architect? So was there a moment or was there a event or somebody asked you? How did it happen?
I think, Anshuman, it is in a sense, it's a evolution. Obviously, I remember the days in college. We were given a project to deliver on, so there will be 4 or 5 of us together where we are working on a project. And I remember those days we were creating a program on C, C++. And within the project team, I would always take the role of, okay, you wanted to collect market inputs, you wanted to collect everything else from customer feedback or whatever, go interview people, I would do that. And at the time of presentation, again, it would be me who would go and present, to realize the fact that, hey, I think I like being in front of people, not necessarily customers. So after engineering, got into a job, starting as a support engineer, and slowly you start realizing mastering the art of selling, and that's where the evolution kind of took place. But yeah, there was always a, back of mind, hey, I want to be in front, keep talking to people, at the same time being technologist obviously was interested. So I guess that's how it evolved into becoming a pre-sales engineer at one point in time. But there wasn't like a switch, if you will, which I'm pre-sales today onwards. It kind of gradually happened.
You've been a successful leader. You started off as a pre-sales individual contributor, solved a lot of customer problem solutions, quite successful on that. When did you realize that you probably have to let go your technical expertise and take on the hat of people management? What was that moment or time you realized? How did it go for you?
Frankly, actually, that has been again the evolution, I would say. But as you rightly mentioned, when you start realizing that you're losing your status as a classic techie is very unnerving. That's for sure. And suddenly you start questioning yourself, your abilities, your skills. Where do you shine, where you don't? But over the years, obviously, when I was doing pre-sales, AC jobs, slowly started becoming a leader for a region and then country and so on and so forth. So slowly you start kind of, graduating yourself from a individual contributor to a people manager. But that journey has been, as I said, quite unnerving. And in fact, every time I would, thereafter, when I was in leadership role, hiring ACs and more so on specialist ACs, those are highly techy, but at the same time, specialists tend to play a role of a backbone rather than the front end role of a classic account AC, if you will. And that, kind of makes or puts people in again a little bit of a discomfort, because when the win announcements start coming in, specialist ACs is typically, not intentionally, but sometimes get, kind of missed out on the announcements and all that. That can be unnerving as well. So it's very similar to being a manager. A lot of time you see, oh, there is a big win announcement went through, your team did fantastic job, and obviously you're not mentioned there, is unnerving. But slowly then you start understanding, the reality of life, that until your team wins, you're nobody, and that's where you start building connections, start leading with empathy and trying to solve the hurdles your team faces, and that's where you start getting pleasure out of. So yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, but I think very satisfying. At the end of the day, when you pick up multi-million-dollar deal, you feel that's the team and I put together, and that gives you a pleasure. So yeah, that's a journey in growth.
So, talking about evolution, talking about journey, Abhijit, you spoke about how things evolved. Did it never evolve that you move into sales? Because that's also very logical. Many of us follow that path.
Looking at the commissions which sales guys were earning, it always cross your mind as a pre-sales, saying should I move? But no, Anshuna, I never gave a serious thought about it. I always like being technologist and part of the sales team. So I kind of find that good balance. A lot of time I saw sales guys very busy, just busy in contracting negotiation, which in my mind was daunting, and hence I think pre-sales was the way for me then and even today. So yeah.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Quite well put, Abhijit. So we all come from infrastructure background, pre-sales. You have seen both infrastructure and the software side of the pre-sales world. So is there any difference between an infrastructure pre-sales and software pre-sales?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest difference I noticed is infrastructure sales. Essentially, the customer demand exists, and then you're competing against a similar vendor of your technology to go and win that particular deal. I'll give you simplest example. So when customer needs to buy storage, he's going to buy something. That need is established, that needs to be fulfilled. That doesn't go away. It's now about whether I can win that deal or somebody else my competition can go and win the deal. Versus when I move to software, a lot of time do nothing is an option which is available to customers. For example, I was in infrastructure or enterprise management software, where it is not that if they don't buy enterprise management software, their enterprise stops working. No, not really. Obviously, productivity grows if you put enterprise software in action, but that doesn't mean in absence of it, everything stops. So in infrastructure world, there is always opportunity exists, dollar exists. It's about who grabs it. Versus software world is unless you prove your value, first hurdle is compared to do nothing, and then obviously you got to overcome the other competitors. Those are similar features, maybe few functionality differences, and you got to win the deal. That's where it makes it a little more harder, I would say, in terms of picking up the order when you're breaking into the account.
What you said is about the need and want, or we can say this is about good to have and must have, right?
Yeah.
If we keep that a little aside, so assuming that the customer has decided to go for a CRM or an enterprise management solution, another difference that I have seen in between hardware sales and or other infrastructure sales and software sales is that uh, hardware sales is very objective. You got matrix, you've got numbers, you've got specific numbers of CPU, memory, benchmarks from different companies. Vis-a-vis when we look at a software, pretty much on paper, everybody says I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Nobody in a software world says, hey, I don't do this, right? Very, very unlikely. The biggest of the CRM and the smallest of the CRM will all say yes. In this scenario, again, to come back to the same question, how does it differ and how does an C create a value when you are being evaluated against a different software where he also claims that, hey, I have everything, and how does the whole value story goes in?
Yeah, sure. So there are two things which come to my mind, Anshuman. One is obviously doing the technical sale. What do I mean by that? In a software side, that's where demos and POCs come in very, very forefront of sales cycle. First time we go meet a customer, even sales guys are encouraged to do a quick demo, how easy your software is or how it, kind of works in, any given standard environment. And then obviously over the conversation, you move into POC. Again, you could do POC of your lab environment, or you could actually give an instance running to the customer. Then you go into a trap of, customizing it for their requirements and so on. So it's a quite evolved POC process. Most of the software companies follow. And you're right when you say that on the hardware side, obviously it's about, bigger, the faster, the better kind of, conversation which happens. And the competition is intense there as well. I'm not by any chance, saying that's not important or that's not matters. It does, but selling style is a little different. So obviously when you move back to the software conversation, once you're done POC and a demo, frankly, every customer I have dealt with on the software side knows that the software deployment will not work in first go. Like for example, on the hardware side, you once you turn the server on, either it's on or it's off. On the software side, they know by design that hey, not everything is going to work perfect. So what they're looking for is hey, when I actually put it in action and deployment phase, will it meet my requirements? And that's where gaining customer confidence through becoming their part of their process, understanding and justifying how it will work. Yes, it will still accept fact that there will be few modification, customization needs to be done, but customer has to gain a confidence that yes, I think Anshuman Abhijit can deliver this for me when I go live. And that's where typically software projects run longer, 3, 4, 5 months rather than switch the button on situation. So that gaining trust is, I think, quite important in the sales process. You obviously do that while doing a demo, doing a POC. You understand what the pain points are, try and address that, and in the process, convince the customer saying, "Hey, apart from the software functionality which everybody else offers, you know what? I can make it successful in your environment." That's where pre-sales plays a quite a intense gaining customer confidence role per se on behalf of an organization you're trying to sell. I guess that's how, and that's where I said these are two pieces. One is making demo POC successful, but how do you win their trust is where the game is, I think.
Yeah, and we'll talk about AI later, but I think this is the human element of
Absolutely.
SE that comes into selling.
Absolutely.
So, since you mentioned that, we often say that the SEs should own the technical win. right? What would be your advice to them? How should they grow in these skill sets for themselves to be successful?
When I talk to new ACs, or when I take over the new teams, I tell them saying our biggest charter or biggest mission is go and win your customers confidence on you as a technical individual, and doesn't matter what you're going to sell. If let's say customer is on a journey of moving their applications on the cloud, is customer calling you as one of the top three people they want to talk to and take some advice, saying, "Hey, Abhijit, I am trying to do this. What is your opinion?" That's a relationship you want to establish, at least for top three customers of yours. And that's a challenge which I always put up for my AC, saying, "Hey, you are on their speed dial." And if you are able to do that, I think as a pre-sales, then you have played your role, is how I see it. Winning customer trust. So yeah, that's all matters actually at the end of the day.
So again, the theme is trust, right?
I remember I had attended a training program. It was something, titled Challenger. I don't remember exact term.
Challenger sales must be
Challenger.
challenger sales. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was sales and pre-sales together in a room, teaching us to go constructively challenge customers' assumptions. Nowadays, customers have already done their homework. So fundamentally, you got to break that down, because along with when they, go through, let's say, whatever AI tool they use, YouTube videos they have seen, they have made up their mind. So you got to go challenge that constructively and then start breaking that down and put your, kind of point of view across. And that's a lot of work which needs to happen by pre-sales fundamentally. And another tip which I was kind of given by those sales leaders then was to ask a question, so what? Every time until you get an answer, customer says, "Oh, I got this problem." So what? "Oh, no, 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 it is because of this." So what? So as you start asking so what question, finally you get to a level where customer says, "Because my mission stops," or "because my server stops," then you understand where the problem is. So as you continue to challenge the customer by asking either so what question or whatever shape and form you use the words about, you get to the real cause of problem. Try and address that. Meanwhile, break the assumptions down. And that's how you go about breaking it down as far as you have access to customer. I also tell them that you got to apply the same logic with your sales colleagues. A lot of sales colleagues I have seen have made their assumptions. "Oh, I do a fantastic demo and I'll go pick up the PO. So what? Let's say I do a good demo. So what? Is customer going to ask for POC? Are you sure? What is the purchase process?" And in the process, I always apply the same challenger mentality with my sales colleagues or sales leaders, saying, "What does that mean? So what? So what?" And you kind of break those assumptions down, because a lot of sales guys want to hasten the process up, in obviously rightly so in terms of getting the PO out, but unfortunately customers may not be aligned to that shorter vision. They want to still, justify what they're buying, and hence you have to challenge one your customer, but also start challenging sales colleagues, is where my mindset is on the challenger mentality. Anshuman.
Very well, Abhijit. So we've been talking a lot around the SEs. What are the three aspects that make an SE successful? Maybe four.
No, actually, I got three. And by the way, every time I interview a candidate, before I ask them question, I show my slide about how I think or what makes a AC successful, right? And those are actually on the slide there are four, but I'll talk about three. One is you got to be technologist at heart, but you must like selling. Fundamentally, you have to like sales. Remember, you're part of the sales team. If you don't win the deal, how much ever good solution you build has no relevance, because you did not win the sale. At the same time, I always remind my ACs that entire world works on sales. If you think about it, even the water which we drink, somebody is selling it to you. May not be active selling, but you are buying it. So there is, you know, unconscious sales happening in this world. So once you start recognizing the value of sales as a motion, and you must kind of obviously value it, enjoy it, and then you got to be technology. So that's number one for me. You got to be technologies part of the sales team. Second one is any AC who wins his or her top three customers, speed dial, conversation, trust relationship, that particular AC, kind of really successful. And third one is challenger mentality, ability to challenge constructively, not fight, but challenge the CIO, CTO, whoever it is, or your sales colleague saying, so what? So to me, these, kind of form top three technologies at the heart sales part of the sales team. Number two is obviously customer's trusted advisor, quite abused word in the pre-sales world actually, but it still works, holds the value. And third one is driven by challenger mentality. I'll leave fourth one, which I I always have on my slide is you got to be storyteller. Finally, you got to kind of weave your messaging around the story. You just can't say, "Hey, this is my software works great." No, 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 no. You got to weave a story around. Even if you're doing a smaller, 5 minutes demo, you got to have a narrative around it, not just feature function things. So you got to be storyteller as well. So yeah, these are a few things which I look for or I train when I hire somebody new.
So, Abhijit, talking about these learning need for these specific skills, non-technical skills, you have seen a couple of organizations, right? Large, small, very software, very hardware centric. What has been your experience in terms of how do organizations look at these soft skills? Are they really investing, or it is like organization to organization, geography to geography? So, how is this thing being looked at from the organization view, and how is it translating on field?
When you're dealing with technical experts, they're curious minds. They will go figure out how the software or hardware works. They will read up everything. But when it comes to soft skill training, is where research leader has to go and look for money first of all, and then you got to sell your story to your bosses as well. A lot of time I've seen some of my team members were fantastic in their technology, and I would tell them saying, "Hey, don't worry, you go and learn something else," and I would put that in part of their MBO. Like I remember a few years ago when obviously the public cloud was a new thing, you know, and I would go and tell my team members saying, don't worry about money. I will find money for you to get trained. Just go acquire, let's say, AWS certification. It wasn't really directly connected to what we were selling, but it was important for me because that's where some customers were moving. And in my view, my team should be able to speak on that confidently in whether you're selling something related to it or not. So I would always tell my team saying, don't worry about the money part. We'll figure something out. And you obviously go build up the case. If it is individual training, I'm sure leaders find money for it. When it is about, let's say, 30 people being trained, then obviously you got to find a little bit of bigger pool of money. But I've always been successful finding money. Obviously, it takes time. But yeah, you can find money in the company. This is important to me. I always I always say this to my team, my bosses. Imagine a situation you hire somebody, Anshuman, you did not train that person. Sorry, you train that person well, and obviously that person leaves. So you feel, oh shit, I trained the person, but within 2 years' time, my training money is gone, and obviously ROI did not come through. That's one situation where you train, invest money, person leaves. Other, if you flip the coin, you don't train the person doesn't leave and stays in your company. To me, that's more lethal because he's carrying half knowledge, meeting your customers, trying to improve or tell them something which he is not trained on. That can be detrimental to my sales cycle rather than kind of the earlier case where at least that person leaves and at the most what I lost few dollars versus here it can impact my deal. So to me, not training person and that person staying is more legal, and hence that is how I was kind of convincing my bosses then to find money for it. And that's how I really feel about it as well, actually. Unless you spend money and get them in shape, obviously you can't blame them for not picking up a deal.
So, Abhijit, this is your view, right? We will also love to hear the companies that you worked for. So, any example that, okay, you had a great experience at CA or maybe at BMC or at EMC or at NetApp, which kind of companies are investing well and reaping the benefit out of it? If you're comfortable taking names, we'll really
Yeah.
love to hear that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll give you simplest example. When I joined BMC and in couple of weeks I was supposed to go for a sales kickoff. We went there and entire sales kickoff, as you know, is very, very sales focused, nothing wrong. It is a sales kickoff. And I'm like, hey, I've traveled all the way to United States with my team from Asia. We spent at least 24, if not more hours. And the training, which is even though it is technology, it was very in that sense sales level. And when I came back, I started kind of having conversations saying, hey, within sales kickoff, we got to carve out time for pre-sales specifically, where you teach them on new technology, new upcoming technology, or how do you do a better demo. Obviously, it took selling a lot of that idea back, because as soon as you start asking that to happen across sales and pre-sales, split into different rooms, there are views about it and so on. But we were able to do that next year onwards, where there was a half a day which was purely pre-sales technical training, where product management was coming and talking about what's coming up next, and pre-sales could stand up and ask questions, where sometimes you don't get access to product management that easily. NetApp, I remember, used to run AC programs completely independent of sales, and that was AC focused. I think they call those days used to call Insight, where it was AC focused. Obviously, sales could join. So yeah, there have been few organizations who are very pre-sales focus on training side of the house as well. So yeah, quite good experience there.
So uh, I just flip the coin. So let's talk about some individual SEs challenges and some problems that they want to address. For example, an SE who is senior SE, who is at a crossroads right now, talking about whether they want to go deep technical as an individual contributor, technologist, or they want to get into people management. What would be your advice to them? How should they chart their career?
It Yeah, sure. So yeah, you may find my answer a little bit cliche in terms of, obviously you got to first identify what you like doing, where you see, hey, me still building a customized demo for my customer is making me happy, or essentially leading somebody else to deliver the demo makes me happy. That's where I think, your people management skill versus individual contributor role differs. But very interestingly, Shri and Anshuman, if I put a little bit of a spin on this one, I noticed that in India, there is a little bit of a tendency to look at only when you become manager, people start seeing you as a success in your career, which is not the case outside. And you start seeing that even in Singapore or Australia, it's even more prevalent, even in United States, where I've dealt with ACs, those have been like 35 years career ACs. They continue to remain individual contributors. They're happy what they're doing and do not aspire to become people manager. So there are challenges on both sides. Some people, just say, hey, I'm happy being individual contributor and I just build my career up there, which is nothing wrong. Which I think little bit of India, I think we still tend to kind of associate somebody, oh, he's a manager, he is successful kinds, which I think getting slowly away. But I think developed economies, you can see that very clearly, the distinction between the career paths.
I will agree. India, definitely people do attach your growth with respect to moving to people management. So yeah, I think that makes it important.
Talking about the current times, Abhijit, AI is taking a lot of with their tools and all, a lot of RFP responses and customers discovery and all. Everything is being handled by AI per se. Are we looking at the pre-sales becoming more of kind of a value architect? Any light on that from your end?
I always, was of the opinion that pre-sales fundamentally are value selling people. For let's say commodity sales, you don't really need, pre-sales individual. I mean, we work for Dell, right? I mean, to sell a laptop, frankly, you don't need dedicated pre-sales. Versus when it comes to value selling pieces, where the pre-sales individual need come up and they start shining. So that exists. Now coming back to your question about will AI be able to do something like that? According to me, absolutely not. Will AI play a role in pre-sales? 101% yes. For example, you talked about RFP. In BMC, we were kind of playing with a couple of tools which will simplify RFP response. As soon as the RFP comes in, you feed that back into the AI tool, and AI tool will populate as much as possible. So in that case, we are, kind of minimizing the pre-sales individuals time on responding. And guess what, there are RFP has questions like give information about your company, revenue, certification, all that. I don't know whether we are really doing justice to pre-sales individuals' time in filling those up, I would rather have AI complement pre-sales to do that. But having said that, whether has it been responded well, not, and then what who is it kind of favored in favor of, and all of that is where the individual knowledge comes in. So I think complementing AI tools to pre-sales actually makes them more productive. In BMC, I played with RFP tools where my aim was to, if I'm able to reduce their admin time by even 30%, I can flow that time back to their customer facing times, which was a huge productivity gain. And that's where, let's say, RFP response tool, creating visual diagrams, creating codes, checking whether bill of material is correct or not. All of these are, to me, a lot of it is admin time, which can be done by any of the AI tools versus my AC sitting in front of a customer and challenging them, saying, "Sir, you talked about this. What is the impact it is creating, and how can I help?" Is where they start shining. So value selling piece actually complements with AI usage. So should we use it? Absolutely. Will it replace it? No chance, in my mind at least. Yeah.
Yeah, that's encouraging. And Abhijit, so many years we have been in pre-sales, we have been seen the companies working on a fairly standard formula. So if you're enterprise account, there is a ratio of sales to pre-sales, right? If you go to mid-market, the ratio changes a little, and SMB, poor people get the lowest number of sales to pre-sales ratio. AI enters, right? So AI takes away, as you said, it becomes a helper, and it takes away some of the mundane job, which actually is the main job of AI, right? Now, if we ask you to look into the crystal ball, 2, 3 years from now, how do you see these numbers looking? Is it like the ratios will change drastically, pre-sales will become a niche, or whatever? Means how do you look at this with the advent of AI and so many things changing very, very fast, almost on a weekly basis in this market? Your guess on the future?
Look, Anshuman, I think, in these, we missed talking about a stake in the middle. One is, customer facing AC. And obviously, we talked about the AI tools. In last, let's say, 10 years, we saw introduction of, let's say, back-end pre-sales team who was helping the front-end, pre-sales team in terms of doing these RFPs, codes, visual diagram, blah, blah, blah. And hence the ratios started changing a little bit. So if you look at the pre-sales level, ratios probably still were the same. It's just that the front end versus the back end ratio started changing. Now, what is going to happen, obviously, is this backend team is going to kind of start using these tools to get their productivity up. But guess what? Because AI is being not only used by vendors, but also the buyers, the volume itself is going to grow. So, to me, to be able to kind of work with that level of volume and complexity, you still have to use AI tools. So, I don't see ratios coming down anytime soon. It's just that the usage of AI will start going up to counter. It's like the recent war, you're seeing Iran using drones to counter the big missiles, something like that. Both the tools still exist. They are not going away. They have a role to play. And I think you got to still have one weapon to counter the other. So I think, to me, I don't think ratios will change anytime soon, because the volume on the other side is also going to.
So we hope so, and I'm sure the change is fast. So we'll all be talking in another 2 years to discuss on this particular point, that what's happening. So you're clear that AI is not wiping away SE role, because that's clearly the human touch of selling, right? Both sales and pre-sales, what they bring into the equation is the human touch into the selling. Yeah.
Absolutely. The value selling motion is not going away. And to do value selling, pre-sales has to be up there meeting customer day in, day out. That's a bottom line. You can bring whichever tool you want. It can't replace gaining trust part of the buying process. Finally, as we said in past, person buys from a person doesn't buy from a AI tool. In fact, if you think about it, Anshuman, every time you log on to, let's say, any of the bank website or any other website, and there is a little bit of a genie or whatever pops up, can I help you? Ask yourself how many times nearly you have asked the question has gotten right answer. Not even 10. That's a reality of life. You don't trust somebody who is behind and the whole process. And I think that will continue to be there at least for the next 3-4 years, I work for BMC where we are in process of selling agentic AI. Still, the trust factor wasn't established enough from user point of view.
Very well summarized, Abhijit. So that was quite insightful. You shared a lot of things. As we come towards the end of our show, what would it be if you have to put in a quote or a sentence or a placard on every SE's desk in the world? What would that be? A message to them?
My only one message would be hold on to your customer relationships. You can change companies which you work for. Finally, vendor A, vendor B, or vendor C is going to sell to customer A, customer B, customer C. As far as you are in the middle who holds the relationship with the customer, that's where the value is. Are you your customer's trusted advisor, irrespective which company you work for? If you establish yourself like that, then you won the battle there, or actually you won the war, if I may say so. So yeah, hold on to your customer relationships.
That's interesting. And again, that brings in the human part into the
Yeah,
conversation, right, Abhijit? Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
So, so thank you, Abhijit, for joining in. We just concluded this episode and it was insightful indeed. We learned from your 30 years of journey and various aspects. People who are hearing this, we'll really love to, and we'll be happy to hear your thoughts about this initiative that we have taken, about the content, the perspective. The idea is that we come out with more meaningful content for you, more leaders for you, and that's what will be our objective. So with this, we're signing off. Looking forward to seeing you soon with our next episode with another leader. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Anshuman, and thank you, Shri.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both.